The rain hammered against the windows of the Manhattan law office as Sophia Bennett gathered her files for the evening meeting. Her senior partner, Richard Hayes, had been unusually vague about the new client, only mentioning that the acquisition deal involved several Brooklyn properties worth millions. Sophia adjusted her blazer, grabbed her leather portfolio, and headed toward the conference room on the 40th floor. The city lights reflected off the wet glass, creating a mosaic of gold and white across the dark skyline. She loved New York at this hour, when the chaos settled into something almost poetic. At 28, Sophia had worked relentlessly to build her reputation. Corporate law was cutthroat, and being a woman meant proving herself twice as hard. She never complained. She simply delivered results. Richard met her outside the conference room, his expression tense. "Sophia, our client values discretion above everything. Answer his questions directly, but don't ask about his other businesses, understood?" She nodded, though curiosity flickered in her mind. What kind of client required such warnings? When the door opened, Sophia stepped into the dimly lit room. A man stood by the window, his back to her, hands clasped behind him. He wore an expensive charcoal suit that fit him perfectly, and even from behind, his presence dominated the space. Richard made the introductions quickly before excusing himself, leaving Sophia alone with the stranger. The man turned slowly. Damien Cross. She had heard whispers about him, a real estate mogul with fingers in legitimate businesses and rumors of connections that ran much deeper. He was younger than she expected, perhaps in his mid-30s, with dark hair swept back, sharp jawline, and eyes that seemed to calculate everything in seconds. Those eyes locked onto hers with an intensity that made her breath catch. "Miss Bennett," he said, his voice smooth and controlled, "I've heard impressive things about your work." "Thank you, Mr. Cross," Sophia replied, keeping her tone professional. "Shall we discuss the Brooklyn properties?" He smiled slightly, a gesture that didn't quite reach his eyes. "Direct. I appreciate that." He gestured to the chair across from him. "Please sit." As they reviewed the documents, Sophia noticed how Damien watched her, not just listening to her explanations, but studying her reactions, her gestures, the way she tucked a strand of auburn hair behind her ear when concentrating. It was unnerving, yet strangely magnetic. "These properties," Sophia explained, spreading the contracts on the table, "have some zoning complications. The previous owners left liens that need clearing before transfer. It will take approximately 3 weeks to resolve." Damien leaned back, his fingers drumming once on the armrest. "3 weeks is acceptable, but I want you handling this personally, Miss Bennett. No assistants, no paralegals, just you." Sophia met his gaze. "That's highly irregular for a case of this scope, Mr. Cross. I have other clients and—" "Name your price," he interrupted smoothly. "Double your usual rate. Triple, if necessary. I want the best, and I want exclusivity." The offer was too generous to refuse, yet something in his tone suggested this wasn't just about legal expertise. Sophia felt the weight of his attention like a physical thing. She should have felt uncomfortable, but instead, adrenaline coursed through her veins. "I'll need to consult with my partners," she said carefully. "Of course." Damien stood, buttoning his suit jacket. "I'll wait for your answer by tomorrow evening. My driver will take you home tonight. The streets aren't safe at this hour." Before Sophia could protest, he was already walking toward the door. He paused, turning back with that same calculating look. "Do you have a partner, Miss Bennett?" The question caught her completely off guard. Her professional mask slipped for just a second. "I'm sorry, what?" "A partner," Damien repeated, his voice dropping lower. "Someone waiting for you at home. A boyfriend, perhaps, or a fiancé." Sophia's heart raced. This was completely inappropriate, crossing every professional boundary. She should have deflected, changed the subject, asserted her position. Instead, she found herself whispering, almost without thinking, "Not yet." The change in Damien's expression was subtle but unmistakable. His jaw tightened, his eyes darkened with something possessive and dangerous. He took a step closer, close enough that she could smell his cologne, cedar and something darker, more complex. "Not yet," he repeated softly, as if tasting the words. "That implies you're looking, or that someone is looking for you." Sophia stood her ground, lifting her chin. "It implies that my personal life is not relevant to our business arrangement, Mr. Cross." For a long moment, they stood in silence, the tension crackling between them like electricity before a storm. Then Damien smiled, a real smile this time, dangerous and beautiful. "Everything is relevant, Miss Bennett," he said quietly. "You'll learn that soon enough." He left without another word, and Sophia stood alone in the conference room, her hands trembling slightly as she gathered her files. She had just stepped into something far more complicated than a simple property acquisition, and despite every logical warning screaming in her mind, part of her wanted to see where this dangerous path would lead. Chapter 2. The Game Begins. Sophia barely slept that night. Her small apartment in the Upper West Side felt unusually quiet, the city sounds from the street below fading into white noise as her mind replayed the meeting over and over. Damien Cross's question echoed in her thoughts, "Do you have a partner?" And more disturbing was her own response. Why had she said, "Not yet," instead of simply deflecting? By morning she had made her decision. She would take the case, but establish firm boundaries. This was business, nothing more. She arrived at the office early, prepared to negotiate terms with Richard Hayes. "Sophia, this is a tremendous opportunity," Richard said, leaning back in his leather chair. "Cross's offer is generous beyond reason. The firm will allocate the resources you need. Whatever he wants, we deliver. I want it in writing that all communications go through proper channels," Sophia insisted. "No personal meetings outside the office unless absolutely necessary for site visits." Richard raised an eyebrow. "Did something happen yesterday?" "No," Sophia lied smoothly. "I just want to maintain professional standards." That evening, she sent her acceptance to Damien's office. The response came within an hour. Not from an assistant, but from Damien himself. The email was brief. "Excellent. Dinner tomorrow at 8. We'll discuss the properties. I'll send a car." Sophia stared at the screen. Dinner was not a business meeting. Dinner was personal. She typed a careful response, suggesting they meet at the office instead, but before she could send it, her phone rang. Unknown number. "Miss Bennett." Damien's voice came through, smooth and unmistakable. "I hope I'm not interrupting. Mr. Cross, I was just about to respond to your email." "I know," he interrupted. "I can see you typing and deleting and typing again." Sophia's blood ran cold. "How can you see that?" "I have my ways," Damien said, amusement coloring his tone. "Don't worry, it's not what you're thinking. My assistant monitors my email responses in real time. Part of running an efficient organization." It was a plausible explanation, but something about it felt off. Sophia pushed the thought aside. "I think dinner is inappropriate. We should meet at my office." "The properties we're discussing," Damien said, his voice shifting to something more businesslike, "include a restaurant in Brooklyn Heights that I'm considering purchasing. I thought it would be practical to evaluate it during our meeting. Unless you prefer, I hire a different attorney who's willing to conduct thorough site evaluations." It was a challenge wrapped in professional reasoning. Sophia bit her lip. "Fine, 8 o'clock. Send me the address." "My driver will pick you up at 7:30. Wear something comfortable. Brooklyn can be unpredictable at night." The line went dead before she could argue. The next evening, Sophia stood before her closet, frustrated with herself for caring what she wore. This was a business dinner, nothing more. She finally settled on a navy dress, professional but elegant, and practical heels. At 7:30 sharp, her intercom buzzed. The driver was a large man with a scarred face and eyes that had seen too much. He opened the door of a black Mercedes without a word. The drive to Brooklyn took 40 minutes through traffic. They passed through neighborhoods Sophia rarely visited, areas where gentrification battled with old-school grit, where corner stores had bulletproof glass and luxury condos rose like monuments to change. The restaurant, when they arrived, was not what she expected. Located on a quiet street in Brooklyn Heights, it had an old-world charm, brick facade, soft lighting visible through large windows, a discreet sign reading Marcello's in elegant script. Damien waited outside, leaning against a vintage Jaguar, looking impossibly relaxed in dark jeans and a black button-down shirt. This was different from the suited businessman she had met. This version of Damien Cross belonged to these streets. "You're punctual," he observed, opening the restaurant door for her. "I like that." Inside, the place was empty except for staff preparing for evening service. A waiter immediately brought wine, a deep red that Sophia knew cost more than her monthly rent. "I reserved the entire restaurant," Damien explained, guiding her to a corner table with views of the Manhattan Bridge lit against the night sky. Privacy is important for sensitive discussions. As they sat, Sophia opened her portfolio. "The liens on this property are more complicated than—" "We'll discuss business later," Damien interrupted gently. "First, tell me about yourself. How does someone like you end up in corporate law?" Sophia set down her pen. "Someone like me. Smart, ambitious, beautiful." He said it matter-of-factly, as if listing objective observations. "You could have chosen any path. Why law?" She took a sip of wine, buying time. "Structure, rules. I like knowing that systems exist to solve problems." Damien smiled. "I'm the opposite. I find rules limiting, though I respect those who believe in them, even when you break them." The question slipped out before Sophia could stop it. His smile widened. "Especially then, Miss Bennett. Breaking rules effectively requires understanding them intimately." The meal arrived. Courses Sophia hadn't ordered, each more exquisite than the last. Damien ate slowly, asking questions that felt too personal, yet delivered so smoothly she found herself answering. Where did she grow up? Philadelphia. What brought her to New York? Ambition, and a desire to escape a small life. Did she have family? A younger brother in medical school. "And no partner," Damien said, returning to the question from their first meeting. "Still?" Sophia set down her fork. "Mr. Cross, Damien," he corrected. "When we're alone, call me Damien." "This isn't appropriate." "Why?" He leaned forward, his eyes intense. "Because I'm your client? Because you feel something you shouldn't? Or because you're afraid of where this might go?" Sophia stood abruptly. "I should leave." Damien remained seated, but his expression shifted, something dangerous flickering beneath the surface. "Sit down, Sophia." The use of her first name, combined with the quiet command in his voice, sent a shiver through her. She should have walked out. Instead, she found herself sitting back down, her heart racing. "Better," Damien said softly. "Now listen carefully. I don't play games I don't intend to win. From the moment you walked into that conference room, I knew I wanted you, not just as my attorney. Your answer about not having a partner yet. That yet has been driving me insane for 2 days." "You barely know me," Sophia whispered. "I know enough. I know you work 70-hour weeks because you're proving something to yourself, not others. I know you take your coffee black with 1 sugar. I know you live alone in a rent-controlled apartment you could have moved out of years ago, but keep because it reminds you that you earned everything yourself. And I know that when you look at me, you feel the same pull I do. Don't lie and say You don't. Sophia's breath caught. Everything he said was true, and the fact that he knew these details should have terrified her. How do you know all that? Because I make it my business to know everything about people who interest me, Damien said simply. And you, Sophia Bennett, interest me more than anyone has in a very long time. Chapter 3. Dangerous Lines. Sophia didn't return to the office for 2 days. She claimed it was research for the Brooklyn properties. Working from home while she processed what had happened at Marcello's. Damien hadn't contacted her since that dinner. No calls, no emails, nothing. The silence was somehow worse than his intensity. On the 3rd day, a package arrived at her apartment. Inside was a first-edition copy of her favorite novel, The Great Gatsby, with a note in elegant handwriting. You mentioned once in a deposition transcript from 2 years ago that you loved this book, thought you should have a proper copy. D. Sophia's hands trembled as she held the book. A deposition transcript from 2 years ago. That was before she had ever heard of Damien Cross. He had been researching her for that long. The thought should have sent her running. But instead, she found herself calling his number. Sophia, he answered on the first ring, his voice warm with satisfaction. I was wondering when you'd call. This is too much, she said, clutching the phone. The book, the information about me, all of it. It's crossing lines. Lines are meant to be crossed, Damien replied. Meet me tonight. There's something I need to show you regarding the properties. No more restaurants, no more private dinners. Agreed. This is purely professional. One of the warehouses near the Navy Yard, 8 o'clock. I'll text you the address. Against her better judgment, Sophia agreed. She spent the afternoon reviewing the property files, trying to convince herself this was just business. But when 8 o'clock came, she found herself choosing her outfit carefully again, applying makeup she didn't need for a warehouse visit. The address led her to a converted industrial building in the Navy Yard area. The neighborhood was transitioning, old factories being transformed into tech offices and art studios. Damien's car was already there when she arrived. He met her at the entrance, dressed in dark clothes that made him blend with the shadows. Thank you for coming. Inside, the warehouse was unexpectedly beautiful. Someone had renovated it with exposed brick, high ceilings, and enormous windows overlooking the East River. Modern furniture created living spaces within the vast interior. This is one of the properties? Sophia asked, her voice echoing in the space. It's mine, Damien corrected, walking to the windows. I wanted you to see it because I'm considering what to do with the building. Your legal expertise could help, but more importantly, I wanted you to understand something about me. What's that? He turned to face her, the city lights behind him creating a halo effect. I grew up in Brooklyn, not the trendy parts. The rough neighborhoods where survival meant being tougher than everyone else. My father ran numbers for the Gambino family. My mother cleaned houses for people who wouldn't look her in the eye. I watched her work herself to exhaustion for pennies while men in suits made fortunes on Wall Street. Sophia listened, sensing this was important. Damien rarely talked about himself. When I was 16, my father was taken out during a territory dispute. My mother died 2 years later from exhaustion and a broken heart. I swore I'd never be powerless again. So I learned the game, both sides of it. Legal businesses that make money and the connections that keep you protected. This building represents that transformation. From nothing to something. From powerless to powerful. Why are you telling me this? Sophia asked softly. Damien moved closer. Because I need you to understand what you're getting into. I'm not a good man, Sophia. I've done things that would horrify you, but I'm honest about what I am and what I want, which is you. The word hung in the air between them. I want you in my life, not just as my attorney, not just for a few months until this deal closes. I want you permanently. Sophia's heart raced. You can't just decide that. Relationships don't work that way. Don't they? Damien challenged. You feel it too. This connection. The way the air changes when we're in the same room. The way you think about me when you should be thinking about your cases. That's just attraction, Sophia said. But her voice wavered. It's not enough to build anything real. Then let me prove it to you. Damien closed the distance between them, his hand reaching up to cup her face gently. Give me a chance, not as a client, as someone who sees you, really sees you, and wants to know everything. Sophia knew she should step back, maintain boundaries, protect herself. But when Damien's lips met hers, soft and demanding at the same time, every rational thought evaporated. She kissed him back, her hands finding his shoulders, pulling him closer. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Damien rested his forehead against hers. Say yes. This is insane, Sophia whispered. You're my client. There are rules. Pass the case to another attorney at your firm, Damien said immediately. Problem solved. It's not that simple. My career will be fine, better than fine. I have connections that can open doors you haven't even dreamed of. He pulled back to look at her. But I won't lie to you, Sophia. Being with me comes with complications. There are people who would use you to get to me, rivals who would see you as a weakness. You'd have to be careful, always aware of your surroundings. I can protect you, but I need you to trust me completely. The warning should have scared her away. Instead, Sophia found herself asking, What about other women? Do you have someone? Damien's expression darkened. There's no one. There hasn't been anyone serious in years. And if you say yes, there never will be anyone but you. I don't share, Sophia. When I commit, it's absolute. That sounds possessive. It is, he admitted without shame. I'm not going to pretend to be something I'm not. I'm jealous, protective, and demanding. But I'm also loyal, generous to those I care about, and I'll move heaven and earth to make sure you have everything you need. That's the deal. Take it or leave it. Sophia looked into his eyes. Seeing the raw honesty there, this was a man who lived in shades of grey, who operated in a world most people only saw in movies. Getting involved with him would change everything about her carefully structured life. I need time to think, she finally said. Damien nodded slowly, though disappointment flickered across his face. How much time? A week. I need to transfer your case. Talk to my partners. Figure out if this is even possible. 1 week, Damien agreed. But Sophia, while you're thinking, stay safe. Don't discuss this with anyone except your senior partner. There are people who watch me, who monitor anyone I show interest in. I don't want you becoming a target because of my feelings. The warning sent a chill through her. Are you saying I'm in danger? I'm saying the world I live in is complicated, but if you choose me, I'll make sure nothing ever touches you. You have my word. As Sophia left the warehouse that night, her mind spun with possibilities and fears. She had stepped into something far beyond a simple romance. This was a choice that would define her future, for better or worse. Chapter 4. The Choice. The week Sophia requested felt like a lifetime. She transferred Damien's case to Richard Hayes personally, citing a conflict of interest without elaborating. Richard's knowing look suggested he understood more than she had said. But he didn't press for details. Sophia spent hours researching Damien Cross, not just the public records, but the whispers, the rumors, the connections. What she found both terrified and fascinated her. He was exactly what he claimed to be, a man who walked the line between legitimate business and darker dealings. His name appeared in property acquisitions worth hundreds of millions, but also in FBI files related to organized crime investigations that never quite stuck. On the fourth day, something happened that changed everything. Sophia was leaving her office late when she noticed a car following her. At first, she dismissed it as paranoia, but when the same black sedan trailed her for 6 blocks, she knew something was wrong. She ducked into a crowded restaurant, her heart pounding. From the window, she watched 2 men exit the sedan, their eyes scanning the street. Before panic could fully set in, her phone buzzed. "Damien, where are you?" His voice was sharp, controlled. "How did you know your location? I've had someone watching you since our conversation at the warehouse. Where are you?" Sophia told him the restaurant name. "There are 2 men outside. They followed me from the office." "Stay inside. Don't go near the windows. My people are 3 minutes away." "Damien, what's happening?" "Someone is sending a message," he said, his voice cold with fury. "They're telling me they know about you. Stay on the line with me." Those 3 minutes felt like hours. Sophia watched through the window as a different car pulled up, a Mercedes she recognized. 2 large men exited, approaching the sedan. There was a brief confrontation, too far away to hear, but the body language was clear. Threat met with greater threat. The men from the sedan left quickly. One of Damien's people entered the restaurant, a woman in her 30s with sharp eyes and a professional demeanor. "Miss Bennett, I'm Teresa. Mr. Cross sent me to escort you home. Your apartment isn't safe tonight. I'll take you to a secure location." Sophia wanted to argue, to insist she could handle herself. But the fear still coursing through her veins won out. She followed Teresa to the Mercedes, Damien still on the phone. "I'm sorry," he said, and she heard genuine anguish in his voice. "This is exactly what I warned you about. I should have had better protection on you from the start." Who were those men? Competitors, people who think they can pressure me by threatening what I care about. They made a mistake tonight. The cold fury in his voice promised consequences. "Teresa is taking you to my penthouse in Tribeca. You'll stay there until this is resolved." "I can't just disappear from my life." "You can, and you will. This isn't negotiable, Sophia. These people don't make idle threats." The penthouse was on the top floor of a converted warehouse, with 360 views of Manhattan and security that would make a bank jealous. Teresa showed her inside, checked every room, and then positioned herself by the door. Damien arrived 20 minutes later, still dressed in the suit he had worn to whatever meeting he had left. He pulled Sophia into his arms without a word, holding her tightly. "I'm okay," she whispered against his chest. "You shouldn't have to say that," Damien replied roughly. "You should never have been in danger in the first place. This is my fault." Sophia pulled back to look at him. "Tell me the truth. All of it. Who are you really? What have you done?" Damien led her to the leather couch overlooking the city. For the next hour, he told her everything. The legitimate businesses, yes, but also the protection networks, the information brokering, the favors owed and collected. He explained how his father's death had taught him that power was the only real security in their world. How he had built an empire that straddled legality because that was the only way to survive in certain circles. "I've never hurt an innocent person," Damien said quietly. "That's my line. The people I deal with are players in the game. They know the risks. But you're not part of that world, Sophia. You're the best thing that's happened to me in years, and I've put you at risk just by wanting you." Sophia processed this, her legal mind categorizing crimes and consequences, while her heart wrestled with feelings she had never expected. "What happens now?" "I handle the people who threatened you. I make it clear that you're under my protection, and touching you means war. And then—" Damien took her hand, his thumb tracing circles on her palm. "Then you decide. Knowing everything now, the danger, the complications, the reality of who I am, do you still want this? Do you still want us?"